the first question is, what can fans expect to see when they go to see Mannheim Steamroller live?
Well, it's kind of more of an experience than a concert or a show per se. The way I've constructed it is, of course, the music is the driving force, but then everything else hinges on that, like the lighting is synchronized with certain parts of the music. There's a lot of video content and slides and different things that match up with certain feelings that are going along with the music. The audio experience is a combination of not only the live musicians and the orchestra, but also special effects that are pre-recorded and things like that. So it's kind of an all-encompassing kind of experience.
Oh, great. With over 25 years of producing Christmas music, do you have any fond memories of making the recordings?
Well, sure. You know, I mean, each song is kind of like having a child, you know. Once you get each one done, they all have kind of their own personality. And I've composed all the pieces that I've ever written, well, within the last, let's see, how long has it been? 25 years, I guess.
Yeah.
All of those pieces I've composed here at my house. It's all very personal to me.
Oh, okay.
And I have a pretty intense studio downstairs, of course. I mean, as I'm sure you can imagine. So I do everything like right here. And
do you play all the instruments, or do you have other session musicians come in too?
No, I do all the instruments for the most part.
Wow.
Myself, with the exception of if I have something specialized like a long violin solo, I won't try and attempt that, or an oboe solo.
Okay.
Although I was a bassoon major in college.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you could.
But yeah, the recorders, drums, keyboards, all that stuff. I do the bulk of that myself. Occasionally I'll write something that's really particularly difficult for some instrument, and then I'll bring in one of the steamroller guys that tour on the road companies, because once I get it all done, I get it to the point of being in record form, but then to do live performance, and as you know, we have two companies of Mannheim out, plus the Universal Grinchmas that's going on simultaneously, so I have to have a number of schooled musicians that know the repertoire pretty well.
Okay. What's a typical Christmas like for you and your family? Do you play a lot of Christmas music around the house?
Well, you know, because of me being gone so much this time of year, for example, I have 3 kids, and I have a 19-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old son, and an 11-year-old daughter. And so they were here for 4 days over Thanksgiving with me. I live on a farm.
Oh, okay.
I have a 150-acre farm out here, and big fireplace and all that sort of thing. And so all the kids came out, and this just was really a great Thanksgiving because it kind of had to substitute partly for Christmas too.
Oh, okay.
Because of my travel stuff. So my oldest daughter is a tremendous cook, and she refused to let me cook anything. So she cooked the entire turkey dinner.
Oh, wow.
The whole Thanksgiving thing. Did everything, had her little sister helping her with grinding things and prep and that kind of stuff, and had her brother out setting the table with my grandmother's tablecloth that I grew up with, and had a big roaring fire in the fireplace, and they refused to let me do anything. And so then when we got done with the dinner, we set up our Christmas tree. And I think it's probably the prettiest Christmas tree that we've had, and I think largely due to the fact, have you seen some of the new Christmas lights? They're all these LEDs.
Yes, yes.
Man, the colors are intense.
Oh, yeah, like almost neon.
These blues, the new blue color that they've got, some of these just knocked me out of my socks, you know. So yeah, we did that. We did a big dinner that my daughter fixed. She did all the dishes. She and her sister, they did all the dishes. The kitchen was left absolutely clean. And then we put presents under the tree and decorated the tree.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, it was maybe the best Thanksgiving I've had in a long time. But it's fairly typical of how we do stuff over here.
Seeing how you started the American gramophone because you couldn't find a distributor to release the Christmas music, what do you think of the current age of the internet and downloading?
Well, it certainly is having an impact on stuff. I might say that, there's a very positive side for us. I know, for example, our Halloween album was the biggest download album the month of October last year.
Oh, okay.
And so we had tremendous sales with that. And we have, we usually hover in the download charts usually in the upper 10. Particularly this time of year, we're definitely top 10, top 5. But the difficulty comes, it's a really great, convenient way to buy music and all of that. But by giving the choice to the listener to be able to buy one cut at 99 cents at a time, and by the time iTunes or whoever it is and the distributor who's doing what and all that, everybody gets done taking their cut, there's very little left, is one situation. And the other thing is you're allowing them to buy 99-cent cuts one at a time instead of a $15 album. And so what it's done is it's turned the economics of the music business upside down.
And do you design them as albums anyway to be listened to as a whole experience?
Yep, still do. Just I think that way. And my audience, the core audience, still appreciates the concept album idea,
Oh yeah, I know. I prefer it on CD myself. But
yeah, and the Fresh Air series is a really good example of that. The first 4, there's 8 of them altogether, and the first 4 are the 4 seasons, and then the next 4 are about sort of real heavy topics. I like scientific stuff quite a bit, so I did one about Johannes Kepler and his discovery of how gravity works with with interstellar bodies, and then Kepler's harmony of the universe, and then number 6 I did about Greek mythology. Number 7 I did about the magic of the number 7 in all cultures, 7 different cultures, and then 8 I did about infinity.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I kind of like digging into topics, and those are all reflected in the liner notes. And then 8 was the crowning glory I did. I spent $5 million on a DVD production where it brought everything to life.
Oh, wow.
Liner notes to come into life,
Wow. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I wanted to end the series with a bang, It actually starts with the Big Bang as the first infinity thought that's on the album.
And everything is still in print, I would assume, right?
Yes,
What kind of feedback do you have from patients who've heard your, what you call the ambiance medical music?
Yeah, we get great feedback from them. Some of the typical things I've heard from very critically ill people is that it takes them away, and it reminds them a lot, particularly the nature algorithms remind them of their childhood. And I'm just guessing that that's probably, when you're a kid, you probably spend more time outside than you do as an adult. And so it kind of takes them back to their childhood and kind of rejuvenates their spirit to some degree. It's also great as a pain distractor.
Oh, yeah.
And helps keep, pain away, and
especially if you're
that
getting
seems to be a good, positive thing that we hear. We've done some pain tests with it, and it definitely knocks down on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the greatest. We see them without ambiance being up around an 8 or a 9 or something, and with ambiance they can be down like around a 4.
Wow, that's incredible.
It does have a definite impact, and we've tracked it in a couple of studies.
My final question is, what's been the most satisfying part of your career so far? I know you do music and you do business.
Well, one of the things is having my kids involved. That's really satisfying for me. I've written pieces for each one of my children.
Oh, great.
And watching my children pick up, I'm a third-generation musician on both sides of my family.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. My mother played in the NBC Symphony.
Really?
40s, and my father played in the big service bands with the Glenn Miller era.
Oh, wow.
And both my grandmothers were piano teachers.
Really? Wow. I bet
Yeah,
you have interesting stories.
now to see my kids, I have my grandmother's piano restored, sitting next to a harpsichord that my father built, and to see my kids sit down and play the instruments, and they take lessons and stuff too, but my son is really inventive.
Do they have sort of the same musical interests that you do? You pretty much speak the same language, or?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. They don't shy away from classical music at all. they're not necessarily totally drawn to it, but and then they have certain stuff that they really like that's contemporary to them. You know, my little daughter is more sort of the Miley Cyrus set.
Right, right.
And my oldest daughter is really into country.
Oh, okay.
And my son is more Eddie Van Halen and rock and roll and stuff. But they still like classical music, too.
Oh, good. Okay.
They still listen to Mozart and stuff in the car. And I don't hear them going, hey, change the channel, Dad.
And they've obviously heard all your music, so.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they've grown up with it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Oh, no problem.